You're listening to a Bored to Death Herocast, talking superhero anime and other hero fare in easily digestible chunks. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and other assorted gender assignations. Welcome back to the Bored to Death Herocast. I am Jay, being joined by
Sam,
and we are back to watch the latest episode of My Hero Academia Season 5. Yes, we are aware that there are more episodes out than we are covering, but we are watching the dubbed version. Dubbed version isn't coming out simultaneously with the sub version. So we've covered why we watch dubbed versus subbed, even though I don't generally have a preference. You, however,
well, the first couple any anime movies I saw in theaters were action animes subtitled.
Yep.
And it's a pain in the ass when you're not able to pick your seat where you can actually get full view of the screen. So it made it quite a cumbersome thing to do.
Yeah. That's why he prefers to do it. He doesn't want to have to try to... But watch what's happening and then also look down to read what they're saying at the same time. It's...
And plus, the more thing... We don't speak Japanese, so we don't know the inflections. We don't know how the sarcasm would sound or anything else that they would put into the language of it.
There's a lot of that nuance that's lost on us through reading the words, because we can't always pick up on what's being said in the native
And when
language.
people are off screen, it's not like you can look at them and know what kind of tone they're putting into it or what.
And there's the issue with where if it's a foreign language that you don't speak, you are going to struggle to tell who is talking again, because a lot of times they are going to sound somewhat similar. I have that issue.
Multiple people talking at the same time, and sometimes they don't even differentiate on the screen who's actually talking.
In the subs, yeah. Sometimes they will color coordinate. They will colorize the subtitles depending on who's doing the talking, but that's only occasionally, and it's very, very, very uncommon. But at any rate, My Hero Academia Season 5, we're in the middle of another one of the school arcs rather than the villain arcs. It's sort of simultaneous with the villain arc, but it's much more lesser in terms of the villain arc. It's happening more with Hawks trying to infiltrate the League of Villains as an undercover agent. And he's working with Dobby, who appears to be getting more focus, at least currently. And meanwhile in the school, Class 1A are about to have some sort of mock drills with Class 1B, which of course is going to be another excuse for Monoma to be an arrogant prick, and cannot wait.
He doesn't need an excuse, he just is.
Yeah, I know, but it's going to be real nice to see him just get flicked across the training arena with with one of Deku's little flick shot,
or one of his full cuff air blast.
I don't know if Deku would necessarily go for the full cuff thing. Something that occurred to me though, because while the Monoma's team versus Deku's team is not going to happen until the end of this particular arc, or at least this training portion, because they're both in the final teams of their respective classes, and we know that Shinso, who has made a return and is attempting to prove he can hang with the Hero Corps students so that he himself can move up to the hero track, is going to be on Monoma's team. Something that, and Monoma, we know, can copy people's abilities. He can only copy 3 at a time. And there's a couple of hiccups there where Deku's concerned. Because in the second movie, in Heroes Rising, we saw that 9 wasn't able to steal Deku's One For All. Probably because there's multiple quirks involved, and he can only...
What number wielder is he again?
Deku is the 9th bearer of.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't be able to get it, because there's at least seven powers.
There's at least 7 powers in there, because All Might said that he had been born quirkless himself. But and in Nine's case, he could only carry like 9 powers, and once
he could only carry after he was imbued with the power
with an artificial copy of All for One. But in Monoma's case, you can only copy 3 at a time, and I think it's like it's.
And I'm guessing.
Did they describe exactly how it works? Is it like a first in, first out sort of?
Not sure.
thing?
I wonder if he could just like
if he can pick and choose
through.
like if he can like be like I have these 3 powers. I want to get rid of power A so I can get power D, or I actually want to get rid of power C so I can get power D.
But that's only when he was in the first exam thing. He might have been able to train himself to be able to hold more.
And there's that also. But something that's occurred to me, if, let's say he does manage to copy the super strength aspect of...
I wonder, I don't know if that's even going to be a factor. He has to actually touch Deku.
But if he does...
Taking Shinso's power...
Yes.
Because he talks so much and someone's going to respond to him.
That is most likely what's gonna happen. But what I was going to get to is, let's say that Monoma does manage to copy the super strength aspect of One for All. He's not going to be able to handle it.
Nope.
He's going to be in the same boat that Deku was when he first had the power, when his body wasn't used to it. He's not going to know how to use it.
I don't think he would, because he saw how much he broke himself throughout all the games.
This is true.
He would know better than to do that.
Alternate.
He talks big, but I think he's a lot smarter than he lets on.
Yeah, that's true. But his problem is he also automatically assumes he is the smartest person in the room.
He hasn't proven that he's not, though.
This is true, but at the same time, he seems to think that, he is so smart that he can get away with whatever he's doing. And that's been repeatedly proven that no, you can't. Mostly because Kendo is there to punch him in the back of the head when he gets out of line.
So how many, out of the 5 matches... Actually, yeah, I'll say this now instead of the end. Out of the 5 matches, how many do you think Class 1A is going to win?
I think we're probably going to get like a 3-2 victory, but it's going to be a very close thing for Class 1A.
Well, I mean, you don't want to completely bury Class 1B if you want to shine a spotlight on them.
And I think the 2 that it could possibly go to 1B, just to sort of show, just because 1A has been getting all this practical experience doesn't mean that they're automatically the best. I could see...
And do you think both matches Shinso's in is going to be a win, a loss, or...
I think he is, because right now he's on 1A's team against... don't remember all the characters that were on 1B's team, but they're up against Vines, Beast Mode, Air Prison, and I forget who the 4th person is. But 1A's team has Red Riot.
That's a scale guy.
Okay. Has Red Riot, Sparky, Anna Voice, and Froppy with Shinso.
Yeah.
And we just learned that Shinso has some support equipment that gives him a voice modulator, which lets him imitate other people's voices, giving a whole new dimension to his quirk. We already saw him use it against Beast Mode by imitating Air Prison's voice. So that's going to be interesting. But yeah, there's a whole lot going on with everything. We know that Bakugo and Shoto are on separate teams as well. They didn't put any of the 3 heaviest hitters in 1A on the same team. Probably because they're like, we need to when they were writing it, they're like, we need to split them up and allow them to sort of spotlight both themselves individually and have other classmates have a chance to shine too.
And 1B.
Same with 1B, yeah. And, well, let's also talk about the Dobby situation. Even though I don't know that we're necessarily going to get some more focus on Dobby, we should probably just address it again here. With our continuing theory, because we don't read the manga, so we can't say whether or not this is accurate or not. But our theory is that Dobby is the missing oldest Todoroki brother.
Yep.
Because we've met...
I've said that since the first time I saw him use his ability and his scars.
Mm-hmm. At the time, you thought his scars were because he tried to imitate Endeavor's flames.
I said it had like something to do with... I don't think it was natural.
Yeah.
Obviously not natural doing that.
But, we think
he's black hair because he's the black sheep of the family.
You're supposing that's actually his natural hair color, too.
Oh, no. I know it's probably not, but you can't tell with all these different kinds of abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, they've shown all the other children have white with some red or red with some white.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of them actually take more after their mom.
Right. We've seen that with everything. And plus, when it comes to anime stuff, you can never tell if somebody's hair color is supposed to be natural. That is like how their hair naturally is, whether they dye it or not. And then we've also seen in this series, we've seen also that characters will adopt different names, not just their hero names or their villain names, but like different names. Like, I think it's been established that Tomura Shigaraki's name is not his real name. And we know that for a fact anyway, because he is the All Might's mentor's nephew. And she is most definitely not a member of the Shigaraki family. So, yeah, there's... Like I said, I don't know if we're necessarily going to get Dobby in this episode. It seems like they're focusing more on the students in these few episodes, but that is something that's going on this season. They've focused pretty heavily on Dobby in some of the promotional art and in the opening credits. So, and I think that'll about wrap up this little intro. So, we'll see you after the binge. Hello, and thanks for listening. While we're binging, please give us a like and subscribe. If you want to reach out, do it via our social media on Facebook or Twitter at BTD_Bingecast. The Bored to Death Clan is part of the CKCC Radio family, including J Bunny's Music Hub, the Race Nerd Podcast, Real Paranormal Talk, Ranking Tracks, Motivational Moves, The A Show, Park Hopper 101, and The Nerd Table. Please consider supporting CKCC Radio on Patreon so we can continue to bring you podcast content. And now, the binge is done, so let's get to the discussion. And we're back. So, as I did predict, Class 1A did win the first mock battle between them and 1B.
Well, you got to highlight Shinso.
Oh yeah, well, Shinso's presence changed the whole complexion of everything, as was sort of predicted in universe. Yeah, because not everybody is entirely aware of how his power works. They just know that you have to be careful when you're talking to him, because he can then use, if you respond to him verbally, then he's got you. But at the beginning of this episode, we actually got a flashback to before the match started, as he explained how his quirk works, and how his face mask thing works. One of the limitations of his quirk is he can't talk through a microphone or any sort of speaker to people, because it has to be his voice that
can't
they
be
respond
amplified in a certain way. He has to use some special cord.
Yeah,
mechanism.
And the mask doesn't have like a voice modulator per se, so much as that it's got various movable plates within it, which is why he reaches up and adjusts the little dials on it. It adjusts how those things are positioned to change, how his voice sounds, but it is still his voice that they are hearing. And there's also he has to focus on the person that he's brainwashing. He has to focus on them and in his head think, I'm going to brainwash this person, which is, he basically said, I haven't tried brainwashing mass groups of people. I don't think I could do it.
He doesn't think he can do one-on-one.
Yeah, the focus becomes too split apart kind of thing. But it takes, between his explanation and his teammates asking some more questions about it, they didn't have any time to prepare a strategy. So they just had to wing it. And even then, they did a pretty good job, but 1B had more prep time about everything. To strategize. And they knew they had to take Kaminari and Red Riot out of the picture. Or no, Sparky and Red Riot. I keep getting that. Kirishima is the Sparky guy, right?
Denki Kaminari.
Okay, Kaminari is Sparky, Kirishima. Because they're both K names, so it keeps throwing me off.
Huh.
And suddenly we had a...
That's the stupid alarm.
Okay, sorry about that. We're going to pause this real quick to turn off Alexa. Be right back. And we're back. Sorry about that. We had Zeke went off with his wife to go visit her family today, and they'd set an alarm on their Alexa, and Alexa isn't responding, but went off like that. Anyway, getting back to the the Kirishima Kaminari. I keep getting their names mixed up. At any rate, they knew that Kaminari would be a threat because he can attack them at range, and his power is pretty powerful with his shocks. And so they were aiming to try to take him and Kirishima out because they're both the heavy hitters. And Beast Mode's Quirk gives him a keen sense of smell, which is how he was able to basically find out where Froppy was, despite the fact she was using her chameleon-like ability to go invisible. And at any rate, they still responded pretty quickly when they realized what Shinso's Quirk could do now that he can imitate people's voices. And so Air Prison Guy managed to trap him within a cube, but he still ended up getting captured by Froppy, who managed to escape and get him in the cage. Where we briefly had a thing where he's just like, I can't believe I got caught by Asui, and she used her tongue. He was just sort of embarrassed / humiliated /
kind of
into it. Oh, Japan. But that prompted everybody to try to, on both teams, to suddenly have to re-strategize because 1A's team was suddenly down. They lost Red Riot and Coda because Beast Mode was able to get past them by just shifting back to human mode through their attacks, and then just resumed Beast Mode, grabbed Kirishima, threw him to Vine, who just wrapped him up and delivered him to the cage. And he just kept his grip over Coda's voice, mouth, so he couldn't use his voice to call for help with from his animal friends. And Shinso was then was apologetic because he's just sort of my reaction time isn't fast enough yet, because he he's just doesn't have as much experience with this sort of thing because he's been in general studies, not the hero course. So they haven't
put combat.
Yeah, they haven't been putting as much focus in combat training with him. He's had to get that separately from Eraserhead, but even so, it's just he's I'm not quite fast enough, and he's I feel like I let you guys down, and both Froppy and Kaminari were dude, no. I don't think I think we would have lost if you weren't here. And Kaminari was just sort of like, yeah, I like you, dude. Just like, because basically they were reassuring him of, like, you got a really good quirk there. It's really strong. And, he's just like, you could tell it meant a lot to him, but at the same time, he's like, I've still got to maintain my edge, so he's just like, whatever.
We also don't get to see too many of the people in his general studies courses, so you don't know
what his relationship is like with any of them.
If he has any.
This is true. But then, Vine got a little bit of a glimpse of what her personality is like. We saw some of it during the school festival, but here it's just sort of like it's way more that she is an extremely devout person. It's just like she does not like deception. She did not like that she was used as a decoy, hence deceptive.
Yeah, she was not happy about that.
Just like, I must atone for this sort of thing.
She was saying that she was going to whip him.
Oh yeah, she was saying that to Apaka Beast.
Apaka Beast and
he specified what his actual hero, what his preferred hero name is, but she dubbed him Apocalypse Beast as part of her whole devout / religious thing, and he's like, don't call me that. But then Dragon Scale was just like called him Apaka Beast. But yeah, she's just sort of like, for this I must whip you, and he's like, wait, what? But this they managed to get around Beast Mode's sense of smell by throwing some confusion in there, and toxic mucus saves the day.
and the cool part about that is they even did the little bit of flashback to season 1
during the USJ attack, when Froppy explained how her quirk works.
Because they were still learning each other's quirks. I don't even think they've even talked to each other.
Not very much. But yeah, and she basically, it was when she was explaining to Deku and Grape Juice. I can't remember his name off. Mineta, that's right. Mineta, and explaining her quirk, that all the frog things that she can do. It's like, yeah, I can jump really far. I can cling to almost any surface. I got the tongue. I can spit out my stomach to clean it, which isn't very useful. But
you could gross someone out pretty hard with that.
Yeah. Oh man, imagine if she'd used that against Overhaul. Overhaul would have been like, he probably would have been like, I need to go clean myself. And she also explained she could secrete this like toxic mucus, but all it really does is sting a little bit. And so it was just a thing that got thrown out there. It's just like a minor aspect of her quirk that's not useful. But here, she basically secreted a bunch of it, smeared it all over Kaminari and so
why did we get to
Shinso.
see that in the anime?
God,
there's too much.
You can't really see my expression, but I just sort of went deadpan and just sort of stared into the distance.
I'm pretty sure there's some of that online anyway.
Rule 34. But at any rate, because of the mucus being smeared all over them, it confused Beast's sense of smell. So he's like, I'm picking up 3 Asuis. That's not possible. We saw this via flashback as they had to strategize sort of on the fly, but basically Kaminari showed that for all that he comes across as a bit of a ditz at times, especially after he's discharged too much electricity at once.
I think it's because he's blonde. Doing a blonde joke on him.
Yeah, but he's actually got some decent smarts in his head. He comes up with a plan
strategy
on the fly after Froppy points out that one of his little pointer discs had actually stuck to Beast's pocket during the fight. And he comes up with a plan on the fly because we find out that as long as he's within like a certain range of his pointers, his powers will automatically home in on a thing. And he tried to use it against Beast when he got caught by the vines.
He did it on purpose.
Well, it was his intent to do it, but he got grabbed a little bit earlier than he was expecting.
Oh, no, he walked into it on purpose. That's why he acted like, oh no, I got caught.
Okay, I sort of missed the sarcasm a little bit in there. See, there we go. Even if it's in English, you can sometimes not pick up on it. But yeah, he deliberately allowed himself to get caught because he knew that 1B was thought of him as the remaining heavy hitter of the group, because they knew that Froppy couldn't stand up to Beast in a one-on-one fight. And Shinso, he's still general studies. He doesn't have the combat training to go up against 3 separate people, and his quirk only works on one person at a time.
And Beast was already taken over once, so he's probably not really having it.
Yeah, well, and as we saw, yeah, he very much was not having it once he realized what was going on. But Kaminari comes up with a plan on the fly about this. My phone just suddenly blows up. Wow, yeah. Anyway, and basically,
if only we had him to charge it.
He got caught. Vine wrapped him up in several layers worth of vines to try to immobilize him, and just with the basically his.
He also heard that he was talking big. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to hit you all with a triple volt."
So she just wraps him up tight, puts a shield in front of herself at the same time, because she's like, if it's even as strong as it is, it can't get through multiple layers of these. He then is just sort of like, this is how my pointers work. But as he goes for the shot to the pointer on Beast, Dragon Scale, and this is where we learn what his quirk is, that he can basically create these reptile scales over his body as either armor, but he can also shoot them off like bullets. He just shot the pointer off of Beast's pocket so that the shot essentially missed. But then Shinso, who was hiding somewhere, modulated his voice to imitate Dragon Scale's voice, and when Vine responded to him, suddenly brainwashed. And Beast just immediately goes, charging in a direction. We find out it's because he's still picking up 3 different Asuis, but when she went on the attack on Dragon Scale, he was then like, if that's her. And Kaminari's wrapped up in the vines, and this one...
Oh, he didn't respond. I realize this now. He didn't know she was there. He mentioned that she has a different scent. He could differentiate...
between the mucus and her.
But he couldn't tell between the other 2 that were in mucus.
Ah.
So that's why he was running and didn't say a word and pointed behind him, because that's where Sue was.
Okay. Yeah, it all happened pretty quickly, so we didn't necessarily pick up on it. And Dragon Scale definitely didn't until Froppy basically got the drop on him through her invisibility, and she pointed out, "I can jump faster than you can shoot your scales," and then proved it.
Well, my thing is, how would she know if that was the first time he's actually shot his scales around any of them?
Well, I assume she had disguised herself or hidden herself in invisibility, saw how fast he shot the pointer off of Beast, and then made the deduction from there. But because they had just seen one of their teammates get caught by the brainwashing, when Beast suddenly goes charging and smashing through walls, not responding to Dragon Scale's calls, it was because their paranoia suddenly played up, because they're just sort of like, oh shit, that's right.
It is for sure.
Played up Beast's paranoia. He's like, I can't verbally respond or I'm going to get brainwashed. And so he just comes charging in towards Shinso, who uses his combat scarf or bandages or whatever the heck.
It's combat scarf.
Combat scarf. Wraps it around a piece of pipe overhead and yanks it down straight into his head. And Beast just tanks it. He's just, and he's thinking to himself, that a villain isn't going to go down from something that easily. This is and even Shinso's just sort of like, this is the difference between general studies and hero course. But then he's just sort of staring in horror, just sort of like, I'm about to get my ass kicked. And then we hear Dragon Scale just like, Behind you!
Duck, and a beast. Get out of the way.
Beast, duck! And, he's just thinking to himself, nope, you're not going to get me with that a second time.
Wait a minute.
Beast. And then Froppy just whipped him with the tongue, wrapped in the tongue, straight into his back and knocked him out. And, so it's just like, Shinso was grateful for the experience, but he's just like, I've still got a lot of catching up to do.
That's why they're bringing him in.
Well, and they're still trying to reassure him that he did a very good job for somebody that's really new at this. And he's just sort of like, I've got to be able to do this on my own. I'm relying too much on other people. And while that's a kind of a noble goal, if you join a hero agency, you're going to have partners that you can rely on. There's, don't just assume that you got to go it alone just because Aizawa does. That's I think part of where his drive to try to do things on his own without having to rely on people comes from, because he looks up to Aizawa that much. But it was definitely an interesting episode, showing Shinso that while he's got some ground to cover to catch up, it's not nearly as much as he thinks.
Nope.
And the art and animation in this episode was a little bit wild in the early part of the early fight between 1A and 1B. All the animation with all the characters and the attacks from beast mode and everything.
It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then there was a little thing when Kaminari's explaining how his pointers work. We got Mei Hatsume's My Baby Academia.
Because she was explaining them.
It was a little chibi Hatsume explaining how the pointer discs work. And it was just like My Baby Academia. It just sort of cracked us both up.
My Baby's Academia.
Definitely a good episode. Next time, looks like we're getting Tokoyami and Momo are both on a team. Kendo's looks like is going to be the heavy hitter for her team on 1B. But at the same time, there's that character with the all black skin. Looks like he has like a shadow step ability from what we saw in the preview.
Where he can mold into shadow.
Yeah. Which is going to be a pretty big thing against Dark Shadow. So, and I think...
But I don't think he can do anything to a living shadow.
Well, we don't know. We haven't seen the episode yet. We don't read the manga, so we don't know exactly how it's going to work. But at least if this one wasn't as much of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
But it does look like next episode we are going to get a little bit...
It's probably going to be another 2-part episode.
Probably, but it looks like we're also going to get a little bit more on the Hawks side of things. So that's going to be interesting. But My Hero Academia remains a very entertaining show with all of its various art styles and everything. Very much looking forward to next week. So I think that'll about wrap it up, unless you have anything else.
All right,
to
Class
add.
1A 1.
Class
1B 0.
Yep. Choke on that, Monoma.
And Vlad was getting too into it too.
Yeah.
He was basically biased announcing the whole time.
Yeah. But hey, why wouldn't he be? It's his students, But then again, I suppose Present Mike is busy with something else.
Yeah, where the hell is he?
He's usually doing a commentary on this sort of thing.
I loved when he was doing the kid, the remedial training, and he's like, "Oh, I can't do this. This needs some commentary. This needs some color. This needs some life." Jumps down there and does the commentary for it.
Yeah!
It was so good.
But yeah, that was a little minor thing we missed for this episode, for this whole thing. But hey, maybe he'll show up and he'll join in with Vlad King about doing commentary together. But that's next week, maybe, whatever. So for Sam, I am Jay, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Plus Ultra.
Thanks for listening to the Bored to Death Bingecast. Be sure to check out our library of past podcasts via CKCC Radio or via our YouTube channel, and give us a like and subscribe. We'll see you after our next binge.